Warning! In this video, there will probably be references to bad words in the backgrounds. Also, I say the word hell quite a lot. Anyway, enjoy! So, Friday Night Funkin' Indie Cross. At this point, basically anyone who's watched my channel is probably aware of this game, right? So, today I, figured that I would actually follow up on something that I decided to do for a community post a while back. If some of you guys will remember it, I asked you if you wanted to see a video where I go more in-depth about how to beat all of the mechanics from all of the different songs. Because, well, if any of you have played the mod yourselves, you'll know that it is hella difficult. It is very hard. So, I thought, well, I may as well go through it, considering that I've almost full comboed every song in the game. Obviously excluding Despair and SANESS, because they are completely ridiculous. But I have a very good grasp on the mechanics, so I figured I would make this video to teach you guys how to do the same. Isn't that cool? Now, before we start, I would like to obviously mention that this video took ages to make, because I had to basically full combo every single song in the entire game. And with how glitchy my system can get, and the fact that I recently broke my actual keyboard and been using a really bad one this whole time, it was not fun. But I did it anyway, and this is the resulting video. So I guess leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and, well, let's get into it. So, I think the first thing to cover, before we even get into the songs, is just how to not suck at the game in general. Because, sure, you can try and play this as much as you want after watching this video, but if you don't actually know how to play rhythm games at all, you're probably not going to get very far. So, I think let's go off with the first major roadblock, and that is your keybinds. Now, Indie Cross is unique in the fact that it has more keybinds than most mods, because obviously you have dodge mechanics and you've got multiple attack buttons for songs like Despair. So I think we may as well cover that first. I'm going to be putting up on the screen right now a picture of, well, my keyboard and my hands on it. So obviously you can see first off that the main keys should be A, S, L, semicolon, because that allows you to space your hands out nice and evenly, and it gives more of a natural flow. It makes things easier. Next off, for your dodge button, you want to usually, I would say, put your thumb on the spacebar for that. So, yeah, spacebar. That's a decent one. Now, attacking is where it gets quite difficult, because you need to have some kind of way of hitting the buttons easily in complete mania, which is, you know, Despair. So, the way that I do it is I have my main attack button, which is used in basically every song, as Alt, which I can use with my other thumb. And then specifically for the songs Despair and Last Reel, you'd probably want to be using something above the Alt key, which is why I use period. Nice and simple. Because that way, when I'm in a song, I can always just switch which one I've got my thumb on, and that means that I can attack in different directions, nice and easily. Although, I will admit, it can get a bit confusing, you know, considering that my forward attack button and my backwards attack button are basically right next to each other. So, if in doubt, maybe set it to something else that you can access with your other thumb. Although, definitely don't set it to the other Alt button because, well, it doesn't work. They both activate the exact same attack. It's dumb, but that's just how keyboards work, I guess. Anyway, that's keybinds. And for the rest of this section, I think I should probably just make it self-explanatory. I'm making this based on the assumption that you can probably full combo the entire mod without any mechanics. I mean, if you can't FC the songs normally, or at least beat them, then you might just want to try practicing. I mean, my skill level at this point is basically 3 years worth of experience, so I would probably take the rest of this with a grain of salt if you just can't beat them normally. Maybe just work on it. Anyway, that seems to be that. Okay, Cuphead's first song. Snake Eyes by Mike Gino. No mechanics. Okay, Cuphead's second song. Technicolor Tussle by... I am not going to pronounce that name. Jeeves, I'm not butchering that! Okay, anyway, in this song, it's basically the first song in the mod with actual mechanics attached to it. Granted, it's still pretty easy, so most people can beat this within a few attempts, even if they are a beginner. But I may as well explain it anyway. So, this is the first time that you're introduced to parry notes, which are these little pink notes that appear throughout the song. Obviously based on the parrying from Cuphead's original game. Now, the way that these work is if you hit one, then you've got yourself a parry card. Once you have a parry card, you can activate one attack. It's basically like storage. Now, you want to attack when, well, Cuphead attacks you. It's a way of reverting him back to his normal state. And I will especially add, in Cuphead's, well, second and third song, so this one and, of course, Knockout, if you hit a parry note, or an attack I should say, at the wrong moment, he's programmed to murder you basically immediately. So, don't do that. It's probably not going to end well. You get a lot more leeway in Devil's Gambit, but for the time being, you've just got to be very careful. Now, I'll probably give away my little trick, so to speak, pretty quickly, just so that I can explain things, well, quicker in the mod, as we continue. When you want to activate a dodge or an attack, I would probably recommend, I guess, tethering it in your brain to one of your arrows. So when you hit an arrow of a certain colour, you will activate a certain action. For example, I always attack whenever I hit a green note. You'll probably notice throughout the recording that I'm playing in the background. And vice versa for dodges, I usually dodge on a blue note. But, you know, you can sometimes mix it around, just makes things easier. Anyway, that's Technicolor Tussle. Cuphead doesn't exactly attack much in this song, so it's basically a free win. And lastly, for Cuphead's main week, is Knockout by RNG Music. I hope I said that right. Anyway, this song combines what we've just had in Technicolor Tussle with quite a lot more chaos, if I'm honest. So, the first main thing to note is Cuphead is going to be shooting you a lot more, so you have to be really on the note for that. Next, he's also going to be using different attacks from the game Cuphead. So, first off, you'll notice him using the Chaser, which is this green shot that you can see there. Now, do not attack him while he's shooting this. It does not kill you, or at least it won't kill you if you are high enough health. The Chaser is simply there as a distraction. You have to wait. Next is the Hadouken, as it's called in the mod files. Now, this is, well, quite frankly, just a dodge. You'll see that little signpost, I guess, coming down every now and then, and if you see that, you basically just need to press the spacebar to dodge it. Simple, right? Now, what's not so simple is the roundabout, which you can see here, where you have to dodge it twice because it comes back. Now, that one's certainly more, I guess, muscle memory, so if you can get the timing down for that, you should be fine. Or you can just do the gamer method of just slamming your hands on the keyboard and hoping that it activates, which it probably will, because Indie Cross is a very forgiving time. And lastly of note is in certain parts of the song, for example when Mugman's sprite loads, it can sometimes lag spike a bit, so I would definitely recommend the whole just spamming the spacebar button if you have no notes coming down your side and you know it's safe. Other than that, it's a relatively simple song, so I guess that's Cuphead's week done. Okay, Sans Week. What the hell is this? Yeah, there's no way that anyone is going to be able to beat this on their first try. Or at least, that's what you might think. You see, this is Whoopee. It's a unique start to the Sans Week, basically being one of the hardest parts of the Sans Week. This is obviously a reference to Undertale, with the classic "I don't understand why people don't use their strongest attack first" thing. But yeah, it's complete overkill. Putting it simply, the rest of the song has no mechanics, so I'll skip it for now, but all of the bits that you just saw there, basically qualify for later parts, so you'll see them later. And on the topic of basically completely skipping mechanics is Final Stretch, which is technically Sans' last song, at least if you're doing the pacifist route, but like, no one cares about that, it's boring and easy. Technically speaking, I could supposedly say that this song does have a mechanic, in which the screen basically becomes, well, shorter. But it's less of a mechanic and more of just an inconvenience, and in fact the mod itself doesn't consider it one in the mechanic selection in Freeplay. Although I will cover it anyway, just get used to timing it a little better I suppose. It can be a bit of a pain, although it's not too bad, you should be fine. Just queue up your reaction times. If you want, try and catch a piece of paper when you drop it. Who knows? Anyway, let's move on to the fun parts of this Sans mod, and that is the genocide route.
That hurt.
Sansational by Tenzin Bush. Oh, I said it wrong. Well, anyway, with that mistake out, this is finally where we're going to start talking about Sans' actual attacks. So, first of all, we've got our classic dodge and attack both on the screen, so you can already tell this one's going to be a doozy. Of course, Whoopee also derives from this, well, particularly at the beginning, which is why I'm going to cover all of the attacks here, since, well, the song actually depends on it. Particularly because this song is the branching pathway of the Sans route. Yes, that's right, if you didn't already know, if you attack Sans at any point during this song, you will enter the genocide route of the mod. However, if you remain pacifist throughout the whole thing, you will instead lock the pacifist route, which will lead you to the aforementioned Final Stretch, which, well, hasn't really got a lot of meat to it. So, I'm showing a recording right here of what specifically happens when you choose to attack Sans, in which, after a while, the song will swap over to a battle UI taken basically directly from Undertale. In the battle UI, you will of course have to be dealing with Sans' new notes, which are the blue notes and the orange notes, also directly basically taken from Undertale. The blue notes reference, well, from Undertale the blue attacks, which you are supposed to just not move, and then they will completely miss you. And the orange ones are the exact opposite. In Undertale you have to move through them to survive. So that's how it works based on in this mod. The blue notes you just don't hit, the orange notes you do hit. Simple, right? Except if you fail once, you die immediately. At least on the hardest difficulty, as you will see me playing here. And in the first part of the song, and in the later Sans songs as well, you'll also notice that every now and then bones will come up on the screen. Those bones are just a simple dodge mechanic. If you see the exclamation mark, then you press the spacebar. Simple, right? Great! Let's move on. With all of the culmination of mankind's sins, may you struggle through this song. That's right, it's Burning in Hell. This song is obviously a reference to the Sans fight, but more importantly is chaos. I remember when I first played this mod, I spent a good hour or two just trying to beat it normally. So, yes, you will die a lot, especially if you're new to this game. Well, here we go. Okay, first off, we've got our little UI box here and we've got to dodge Gaster Blasters. Now, straight off the bat, only move up and down. You hear me? Up and down. Do not move left and right. It will just make it way harder to dodge the Gaster Blasters. Plus, if you only move up or down in increments, say if you're playing like a little side-scroller like maybe Subway Surfers, then you should hopefully find it a lot more manageable to deal with the Gaster Blasters, since you're basically just moving up and down instead of in all directions and orientations. It also means that you can control exactly where the Gaster Blasters spawn on every rotation, which means that I can now successfully beat this without getting hit once every single time. Next up, of course, we've got an insane amount of dodges, which we do have to go back to tethering for. Remember when I mentioned that in Cuphead's Wii? Yes, that's right. Try and press those dodges whenever you hit a blue note, it just makes things so much easier. Oh yeah, and that reminds me, I didn't really cover it before, but if you have to not hit a note, it can be a bit confusing, especially if you have to hit the other ones. So I think it's safe to say that maybe a little explanation on the blue notes in particular would help. I'm going to take Sans advice on this from Undertale. Think of them as stop signs. You know, the red stop signs that you see when you're driving. Except now they're blue stop signs. Yeah, look for the blue stop signs. That should basically help. It's more of an eye training thing, you'll get used to it if you practice enough. Or, you know, go on an easier difficulty so that you don't immediately get killed when you hit one. Other than that, this is a long song, so if you die or make one mistake, it's all over. I would suggest definitely practicing this one on a lower difficulty, or just keeping your resilience, because every time you die, Sans will mock you, just like he does in Undertale. Awesome! Imminent Demise. It's got no mechanic, so I'm gonna skip it. This is literally the same as all the other boring songs. Except it's actually good, so never mind. Terrible Sin by CD Music Rosebud. Okay, this one is a bit more unique. We've got the introduction of the ink notes. Now, Bendy's songs have two main notes that they like to use over and over, which are the ink notes and the shadow notes. Most people who've played the mod probably know that one, at the very least. The way of dodging them is self-explanatory, it's the same as Sans. Just don't hit them, because they'll cover the screen in ink, or just outright murder you if it's a shadow note. Simple, right? And even better, because they're, well, just straight, solid black, it's like really easy to tell them apart from the rest of the notes. So I would say dodging them's quite easy actually. And the rest of this song just relies upon the fact that you aren't really, I guess, an idiot with that. You don't really have to worry, and in fact the ink notes don't even show up until about halfway through. So I reckon you'll be fine no matter what. Full comboing it, not too difficult. Beating it, not even that bad. There's barely any notes. Next! Oh, grow up. The jump scares aren't even that scary. You can get past them. Last Reel by Joan Atlas. Now this is where the Bendy Week really starts to set itself apart from the others. So first off, you'll be noticing an abundance of kill notes, alongside of course the mentioned before. But more importantly, the Butcher Gang members. So as you'll see down at the bottom, all you really have to do is attack them and dodge them. Now this is why we set up our attack buttons earlier, so you can attack both ways instead of just one. Now, I would make sure that you would focus on taking one out at a time, okay? Also, a little fun trick with these guys that can actually save your skin quite a lot. When they swing their attacks, if you attack them while they're doing so, it actually negates it, so you don't even have to dodge. So if you want to find a perfect time to attack them, I'd go for then. Now, the next thing to take note when you're dealing with these guys is use down scroll. Please, dear God, use down scroll. I mean, I should have mentioned it already when bringing up how to not suck at rhythm games, because down scroll is just naturally the better pick, but in this song in particular, you need it. It's basically the only way to see your notes and if the Butcher Gang are attacking or not at the same time. It is invaluable, so make sure that you absolutely have down scroll on. Do you hear me? No matter how many times I say it, down scroll! Now that that's done, make sure to remember the tethering from before as well. So you need to make sure that you always attack when you hit a green note, or at the very least when they aren't actually throwing notes at you. As well, you can probably also just spam the dodge button when they're attacking and you have no notes, but then again, this is a little bit more timing based, so I would probably not spam it and just hit it when they start to swing, because the time window is incredibly gracious on this song in particular. So yeah, go nuts! What could go wrong anyway? It's not like this is the hardest Bendy song. Nightmare Run. Oh boy, this song is fun. It's definitely the most unique as far as all of the songs go in this mod, and I love it. It's so cool. But, well, fanboying aside, let's actually go through the mechanics of this one, because it is a doozy. Obviously, you've got plenty of ink notes and shadow notes, but then it gets even worse. And that difference is when it switches over to what I call nighttime mode for now, I suppose, despite the fact that, of course, in the factory, well, there's no nighttime. So as you can see, the notes change quite a lot. The ink notes and the, well, mines have also now been replaced by yellow versions, which honestly make it even more confusing, because they look exactly like the normal notes now. And in those sections, it can actually be a little bit confusing to get your accuracy right. Why? Because the outer edges of the notes aren't coloured in, so you're probably going to end up hitting them a little late, or by proxy a little early, just depends on what you're used to. And then it gets even worse, because if you're playing down scroll like me, the scroll speed of the background and your arrows is the same, so it just makes it even more confusing to look at. So you have to really get used to this in order to play it perfectly like I'm doing now. Trust me, it will come with time, but you just have to train your eyes to not get confused at all in this mess. Then of course we swap back to using these dark notes, and in all fairness, the background's sick, but like, it's a bit distracting with all of the colours. I would really say in this song, practice is basically the only way that you're going to get any good at it. Certainly it's the only way that I've managed to get good at it. Because predicting what's going to happen and dealing with all of these circumstances takes a lot of training. Whether it's going to slightly hit them late on the dark section notes, or whether it's getting used to the scrolling backgrounds, it does take a lot of trial and error. But if you can manage it and get used to it, then you should be pretty fine to go, since the charting isn't actually that bad, it's just confusing. Anyway, that's Nightmare Run, easily one of the best songs in this mod. Right, the video is already over 20 minutes, so I think I should probably just skip through these pretty quickly. The songs Bonedoggle, Freaky Machine, and Gose, or Goose, however you want to pronounce it, have no mechanics, so I'm not really going to bother covering them. If you want to include the multiple sets of arrows in Bonedoggle because Sans is also singing, sure, it's a mechanic, but does it change the gameplay at all? No, it doesn't. So that's about it. Nothing else to really say, to be honest. Going in order, we've got the first song, Satanic Funkin by The Innuendo. This song I originally didn't like, but it's grown on me a lot.
Oh, by the way, you need to dodge that guy.
I can't actually say his name in the mod files, because that would probably get me taken down by YouTube. But it's very appropriate. He's annoying. And in all fairness, I actually had to re-record this like 5 or 6 different times, just because every now and then I'd accidentally get hit by him or miss a note accidentally, because, oh god, I can't get his timing down. But I got it done anyway, and I think I should basically just go through it. So in this song, you've got your classic dodge notes at this point, where you just don't hit them. These fire notes are relatively easy to notice, so, you know, hitting them is pretty difficult to do. And even then, if you do hit them, they don't actually deal that much damage. What does deal a lot of damage, however, is the little purple guy at the bottom. In fact, dealing over half of your health. So you really need to make, extra careful that you don't, get hit, because the devil drains your health, just like Bendy. Anyway, the way that this little fella works is he runs in one direction twice, and he swaps and moves from the other side of the screen twice, repeating back and forth. So you can use this to predict roughly how you're going to have to dodge him, because if he takes a while to run across, you can see him easily. Otherwise, you're going to have to really prepare. Reaction times is what it's all about. And make sure, tether your dodges. Although in this song, you can probably tether them to multiple keys, because he just shows up whenever he wants. It's a pain. Anyway, that's Satanic Funkin. Great song, great vibes, horrible, horrible enemy, and I wish he would die in a fire. Bad to the Bone! Man, I love this song by Yamahearted. Well, anyway, let's get into it, because the mechanics really aren't that complicated. I believe they're a reference to Undyne's fight in Undertale, and the basic way that they work is sometimes you'll see some special yellowy orange looking notes coming down from Papyrus's side. Those notes will then flip onto your side, where you must then activate them, just as normal. Now, I will say, the timing on these notes in particular is really weird, because if they aren't flipped onto your side just at the right moment, and you still click it, it will count you as hitting the note, but it will also give you a miss. So you kind of have to wait a little bit, just hitting it absolutely on the dot. Other than that, there's not really much to say. If you don't hit them, you don't really lose a lot of health. And the mechanic's not that complicated, because you can usually see in your peripheral vision onto Papyrus' side which note's going to flip around. Especially if you're paying attention to the little shapes that the tops of the arrows make. So, yeah, not too complicated. Anyway, next song!
It's time. We've all been waiting. But now, the wait is over.
Sammy Lawrence's song, Ritual. Now this is an awesome beat, I love it. Yet again, I think I do this with all of the Freeplay songs. But with that out of the way, Sammy's song basically just combines a bunch of elements prior seen. AKA, just a lot of ink notes. Like a lot. There isn't really much else of note, apart from the fact that the really dark background can make it a little difficult to depict the ink notes, so it can actually make them harder to see. But then again, it can also make them easier to hit by accident. Who knows? The only other major thing of note is the mechanic at the end that is meant to surprise you and kill you on your first attempt. That being Sammy throwing his axe at you, and that is a one-hit kill. Yes, that's right, if you do not hit the spacebar at exactly the right moment, you are just flat out dead. So, watch out for that. And finally, the last song in Freeplay.
3, 2, 1, go!
Give up. In all seriousness though, this song is just complete chaos. No one's ever going to full combo it. Just accept that. And me personally, I've only ever beaten that last bit once. Once! And it wasn't recorded either. I'm going to kick myself for that sooner or later. But yeah, just be really good at rhythm games for that last bit. Gotcha? Good. Devil's Gambit, Cuphead's Nightmare song. Oh boy, it's clearly the easiest of the Nightmare songs. I mean, I managed to beat it for the first time within about half an hour of attempts, but Christ is it painful to full combo. And why is that? Because of the ridiculous jacks. Now, in case you don't know, the rhythm game community calls a long string of notes that are very close together jacks because of the jackhammer motion that you make with your hands. Anyway, Cuphead's Nightmare song is, well, mostly a combination of mechanics seen before, actually. Obviously, we've got the fire notes taken from the Devil's song, we've got the attacks taken from Cuphead's songs as well, and overall, just the screen shake taken from, well, I guess, the Nightmare song in general. They all have it. Now, to sum this song up, fire notes everywhere. You need to be very adept not to hit any of them. Granted, they still don't really deal a lot of damage, but they're still annoying. Next up, however, you don't get any notification apart from a small sound when Cuphead's about to launch his Hadoukens. Yes, that's right. You'll only get to hear this sound effect, and you'll basically have to press the spacebar immediately. And if you don't, it's an instant kill. It is brutal, and you're honestly probably better off just memorizing every single point in the song where he will fire one, because hearing that little sound and reacting quick enough is very difficult otherwise. Next off, you've of course got his attacks. He does attack quite a lot more in this case, but if you do miss one, he doesn't actually murder you like normal. So you can attack him as much as you want by accident, and it should go fine. Other than that, practice. It's literally the only way you're going to get anywhere with this song. And it's the easiest of the three. Bad Time by Tenzu Bushi. I said it right this time. Okay, this is definitely the second hardest song out of the Nightmare songs, but honestly, to full combo, I actually find it the easiest, mostly just because it doesn't have that many jacks. Now, in comparison to the rest of the SANESS songs, this is complete chaos, and I'm particularly referring to, well, certain sections, because a lot of the song's actually not that bad. It's just quite long, so if you die, you have to go through the whole thing again. Because guess what? Everything, and I do mean everything, is an instant kill. Anyway, let's bring up the different mechanics one by one. Obviously, you've got your blue and orange notes that we've seen throughout the rest of the SANESS Wii. But this time, the bones that come up have been replaced by different coloured versions, also referencing Undertale, yada yada yada. The blue ones, you don't want to move, aka you don't press the spacebar if you see a blue warning sign. And if you see an orange warning sign, you do move. Simple, right? Well actually, it's really not. It can get very confusing. There is a simple method of telling though. They just alternate, one by one. So you'll get some blue notes, then you'll get orange ones, then blue ones, orange ones, blue ones, orange ones, and so on. Simple. Next up, you also have to deal with a ridiculous amount of screen shake and distractions in the background. They normally wouldn't constitute mechanics, but I'm going to take them as them because, dear God, it makes it so difficult. And there is one point in the song in particular where I bring up the screen shake, and it is intentionally like that. It is ridiculous. You need to basically just develop tunnel vision to see what's going on. And really, all I can say with that is just practice it, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to see the notes. It is chaos. And I think that goes for all the Nightmare songs. Practice. You just need to play them over and over again for hours if you ever want to full combo them. And even just beating them normally can take, well, hours. That said though, SANESS really isn't too bad, as long as you're okay with dealing with all of the distractions. And, well, you can stomach dying every single time to a one-hit kill. But with that in mind, let's move on to Bendy. Oh god. Right, looks like we've only got one song left. Oh, thank God. Right, which one is it? Oh no. Not this one. Despair. The last song that you unlock in the entire mod. And the hardest in the entire mod as well. First is Nightmare Bendy, and dear God, it's so hard! To this day, I've never even gotten close to full comboing this madness. In fact, I recently released a YouTube short, just showcasing my utter disdain for dying at the end. And in fact, this recording, I don't make it through with full combo either. I got 19 misses. Anyway, let's cover it. So, this is a 5-minute song. Granted, there's no instant kills, but with how chaotic the song gets at the end, there may as well be. First of all, you have to be dealing with jump scares throughout the whole thing. as the rest of the Bendy week will have shown you, it's not that bad. Next, you have to wait ages until the actual mechanics show up. After that, you actually get to the main focus. The Butcher Gang show up again, this time with the Fisherman also present. Now, his AI is almost the same as the little purple fella from the Devil's Song, however it is slightly different. From what I can tell, I believe the side that he comes from isn't determined by anything. It's probably just put directly into the song's charting. So you just need to have even better reaction times than before. How awesome is that? Next off, we've also got to deal with the main Butcher Gang members, which I guess just deal with the same as normal. Always go for one of them and leave the next for last. And if I were to choose a focus, I would probably go for the Piper behind, just because his button's harder to click with. Next, as is staple with the Bendy songs, we've got the return of the Ink Notes and Ink Mines, which you should deal with the exact same as normal. Don't hit them. Obviously though, this time it's a little more confusing because they're coloured. So, especially with the background, it really isn't that easy, at least in comparison with normal and at the end of the song. I would suggest, particularly in the chaos at the very end, when everything is going AWOL, I would probably just focus on hitting your notes in particular, but I would definitely skip hitting them if you're just trying to beat the song normally. Only hit what you need to in order to survive, and focus on not getting killed by any of the Butcher Gang members, or hitting any of the ink notes. Trust me, it's probably for the best. And lastly, as I've said with every Nightmare song so far, practice. There's literally nothing else to it. This song takes hours to get good at, and possibly even a good few hours just to beat normally for most people. So yes, I would say, in this case more than any other song in this whole mod, practice. You need to play at it for hours, especially on the easier difficulty, just to harness your skills and hone them in on getting through this absolute chaos. But if you do prevail and you do stick to it, well, makes the victory all the more sweeter, doesn't it? Congratulations! If you've managed to do all of this, then you've just beaten the hardest song in all of Indie Cross. Well, that's everything. Gosh, that turned into a long video. It's almost 40 minutes. Well, anyway, now that we've covered every song in the mod, and I've given some little tips and tricks on all of the mechanics, as well as explaining how they work, hopefully you'll have a bit more of a fun time while trying to get through this hellscape of a mod. Now, with that said, obviously I've made a load of jokes throughout this video, but yes, I do love this mod and every song in it. The amount of work is incredible, so huge pat on the back to the team who made it. Great job, guys. Next thing to bring up, did any of you realize that I made this entire video in one take? Because I really didn't do any re-records. That's the epitome of my laziness. But yes, I hope that the horrible mic quality didn't exactly deter you or anything. And of course, my terrible ad-libbing, because I haven't been following a script, has also not been too much of an inconvenience. But just in case, if everything has been absolute gobbledygook, complete garbage, and you haven't got a clue what I'm on about, then right at the end here, I'm just going to add a little something that might pique your interests. A part of the video where I'm just going to lay out all the rules with every single song, just for easy access. How cool is that? And that's everything! I hope you guys enjoyed this really long video looking in, well, quite high detail at Indie Cross's mechanics. I really did enjoy making it, despite the fact that it was quite difficult and time consuming. So I hope you guys definitely give a like, and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of thing, because honestly, it was great. Although I don't really do this often, because obviously I'm more of a coder. But with that said, I guess this is a bye for now. I'll see you all in the next video that I make. Well, thanks for sticking around, my fellow idiots. Bye!